so close and yet so far. Carried your books from school, playing make-believe you're married to me. He worked the freight, I was 6 when we came to be. Walking home every day over Barnacle Bridge and Bay, till we grew into me and you.
Musicians of today bear almost no resemblance to the guys who used to sing behind Frankie Valli.
Basically, I'm the only original member in the group of the active working members. And ain't nobody going to come along and take that away, because I love what I do.
It's not surprising that the group, or rather the name, occupies an emotional place in Frankie's memory.
It's like having a child. I got to say that the Four Seasons is the thing that finally took me to the place I wanted to go in my life.
Swear to God, there's no one else on earth I'd rather be. Swear to God, you make me see, so I believe in me.
The truth is that Frankie Valli now plays a distinctly background role with the Four Seasons.
I don't sing on all Four Season records, as you probably know, and you can tell from listening to the Who Loves You album. I am singing very little on that. In reconstructing the Four Seasons, the first thing I looked for was very talented people. And I think I have probably the best set of Four Seasons there ever was.
The original Four Seasons you and I remember from the old days were Frankie, Bob Gaudio, Nick Massey, and Tommy DeVito. For a variety of business and personal reasons, Frankie is the only one performing with the group today. The new Four Seasons are Don Ciccone, who plays bass. Don used to be with a group named The Critters and wrote a hit called Mr. Dyingly Sad. He also sang on the Man from Nationwide insurance commercials. John Paiva plays lead guitar. Lee Shapiro plays keyboards. He also arranges and conducts the group. He has classical training. The drummer is Jerry Polci, who once studied with Joe Morello of the Dave Brubeck Quartet, a jazz group. Like the rest of the guys, Jerry doesn't really come out of the Four Seasons past.
When Sherry came out, I was 10. So at that time, I was still trying to figure out myself, rather than, run around playing baseball with the guys, rather than listening to too much music.
Jerry typifies the new emphasis of the Four Seasons.
At one time, the Four Seasons were noted as a vocal group. I mean, Frankie Valli, Four Seasons, the whole idea of the harmony and the tight-knit vocal qualities. They were good players, but now the band is comprised of very good players, and our vocal prowess is matched by our musical prowess. So now, no matter what we sing, we can always back it up with good music.
The Four Seasons keep pace with the times, but the pace setter is still Bob Gaudio. Bob writes all their songs, with Judy Parker now, and produces the group. They're better musicians today because that's the direction he's going.
The new group is completely schooled. Everybody reads, everybody plays, and even though they've been schooled, they still have come far past that and are into their own thing now.
The new developments of the Four Seasons have given Bob Gaudio a whole new lease on musical life.
Well, there's much more leeway for me. It's much more exciting as a writer because I can stretch out. The albums, I think, are much more diversified. The Four Seasons were never known to be an album group, but I think they are now, and in the future it's going to get even bigger.
Bob hasn't toured with the group for several years. He still sings and plays on albums, but he doesn't like appearing live.
When I was in the group, I was never Mr. Excitement on stage. It was never quite my thing. I always kind of felt like the little goldfish in the bowl. I stayed with it. I learned a lot by being on the road, but I really think it took away from me personally as a writer and as a producer, and I'm much happier now just doing that.
The first album from the current Four Seasons produced a smash single called December 1963. Originally, Judy and Bob wrote it as a story about the repeal of Prohibition. It was called December 5th, 1933. The lyrics went something like this: mush and mash beneath their feet, doing the Charleston in the street, ain't no way to be discreet, rolling round in a rumble seat. Oh, what a night, December 5th in 1933.
And we had a long discussion after the song was written. We'd already laid down the basic musical track, and we pro'd and conned it a little bit, and then Bob went home and rewrote the lyric to fit a generation that would understand.
As Frankie suggests, the song needed to be a little more now. Who knows what would have happened had they not changed it, but they did. And the world was treated to a very contemporary story. Not about booze, but a young man's first experience with a girl.
Oh, what a night. Late December back in '63. What a very special time for me. As I remember what a night. Oh, what a night. You know I didn't even know her name, but I was never gonna be the same. What a lady, what a night. Oh, I got a funny feeling when she walked in mine. As I recall, it ended much too soon. Hypnotizing, mesmerizing me. She was everything I dreamed she'd be. Sweet surrender, what a night. I felt the rush like the rolling ball of thunder, spinning my head around and taking my body under.
Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons have become two separate acts on two different record labels, with maybe even twice as much money. That's next on the Special of the Week. We'll be right back. Seasons' name is owned jointly by Bob Gaudio and Frankie Valli. It's a remarkable business relationship, a basically handshake deal that's lasted more than 16 years. Gaudio and Valli split everything up the middle. Frankie Valli is not featured with the Four Seasons anymore. He just lends his talent and his great voice as part of their efforts. The Four Seasons record on Warner Curb Records. Frankie Valli, the artist, is signed to private stock. Mike Curb, president of Warner Curb, launched his company with the help of the Four Seasons.
Well, I had a luncheon with Bob Gaudio about a year and a half ago. And at that time, Bob and I kind of discussed the concept of a new Four Seasons sound that would be based upon all the great harmony sounds and all the great melodic concepts that they had used in the past, but with a more current today flavor.
It was a very successful venture. In their first year of business, the Four Seasons and Mike Curb sold 5 million records. Mike Curb is, of course, an artist and producer himself. He produces the Osmonds and is a former president of MGM Records.
Well, originally, he discussed the fact that maybe the two of us would produce the album together. And after I heard the first song that Bob was working on by himself, I told Bob that the last thing he needed is for me or for anybody to co-produce with him, because I believe Bob is just one of the great creative producers in the record business today. And I think that maybe he did need a little more confidence at the time, but that was all he needed, because he certainly had the talent.
Bob Gaudio had suffered some artistic confusion and loss of confidence because of a disastrous album in 1968 called The Genuine Imitation Life Gazette.
It was highly accepted in as far as the underground magazines at the time, the Rolling Stones and the Berkeley Bobs and so on and so forth. Review-wise, it got fabulous reviews, but every review ended off with, too bad it's not the Moody Blues or someone of that nature. It probably would be a #1 album. But unfortunately, it's the Four Seasons, and who can believe that?
After 6 years of million-selling hits, Bob Gaudio attempted to move the group, to make it progress, but the public wouldn't let him. It just wasn't in the Four Seasons image. The problem continues even today with the current Four Seasons. Their album, Who Loves You, was a great success, but Mike Curb wonders what it could have been if the public didn't have a set picture of what the Four Seasons are.
I've thought many times that if the last album, the album that was entitled Who Loves You, had been called another name other than the Four Seasons, it probably would have been one of the major FM albums of 1976.
The failure of the Genuine Imitation Life Gazette album was a blow to Bob Gaudio.
After that, it was a traumatic experience for me.